everybody, this is Jennifer. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to discuss what I read in January and what I'm reading right now and what I will be reading. I'm debuting a new TBR. So in January, the first thing I finished was Trigger Warning, Short Fictions and Disturbances by Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman is an author that I love. And some of these stories absolutely stood out, such as the thing about Cassandra. And then there was a story, well, there was like a story series that dealt with like every single month of the year. And it had like little short pieces about every year. And that ended on such a high note. And you know, with every short story collection, there's like ups and like, there were no downs, but there's like ups and then there's evens. There's ups and then there's evens. So yeah, Neil Gaiman almost never disappoints. The next thing I read, well, okay, so here's the deal. These are not going to be in chronological order. They're going to be in order of the books that I loved towards the books that I didn't love. And I've got a new ranking system where they're just going to be, I'm just going to have all my books in like order of which ones I loved, and then by the end of the year I should have a clear picture of what I read in relation to what else I've read and all that stuff. This was inspired by Robert over at Barter Hordes with his movie listing that he does every Friday, but I thought it would be a good way for me to, one, keep all my reading in perspective, and two, just not forget about anything, because I have to at the end of every month I need to reevaluate my list and put things in their order. So the second best thing I read was a reread. It's the book I reread every January, and that is Fluke by Christopher Moore. This is about whale conservation. This whale researcher is trying to find out why the whales sing. He comes across in his research a whale with a tail that has the words "bite me" written on it, and this leads him on a bit of an adventure, and I think it's funny and I enjoy it. That's 4 stars. The Neil Gaiman short stories were like 4.5 stars. Next thing I read was also, it was written by Neil Gaiman, but it was illustrated by Colleen, sorry, I need to look at that, Doran, and the story was fine. It was a very short story. It was a take on the Snow White fairy tale. The thing that really made this book for me, though, was the illustrations, which are absolutely gorgeous, and they're a bit Art Deco inspired, and they're also very, you know, fantastical, but it's quite a lovely little book. And next up after that was Make Trouble by John Waters. This is basically like when they take these speeches, commencement speeches or something like that, that these famous people do on college campuses. This was made into a little book with some little illustrations, which I thought was interesting. It was short and sweet, and it was fine. The thing I read this month that I absolutely hated was a graphic novel that I picked up on a whim by Brian Azzarello, and it was illustrated by Maria Levitt, and it was called Faithless, and I don't really want to talk about it because it was not very good at all. So Faith is going through like a weird period in her life, and she starts, well, let's just say she meets up with some people, a girl whose boyfriend kills himself right after they meet, so of course they end up hooking up, and then the girl's dad, who is most likely the devil, and then of course they all end up hooking up, and it's like, yeah, it didn't work out very well. But the art was nice, so I ended up giving it 2 stars instead of 1, so there's that. That's all that I finished in January. The reason why it's a bit thin on the ground is because of this thing, which I started reading again in January for a read-along and for Read German Books 2020. And I am chugging along on this one, so we're going to segue here into my currently reading. I'm almost 40% done with the Magic Mountain. January, it was rough. It was rough with the Magic Mountain. However, I feel like I've turned a corner a bit. That is not to say that I'm reading it any faster. This is not a book that I can read fast. But I am picking it up more. Like, I'm finding the reading a little less off-putting. So I'm picking it up more often because I want to know what's going to happen next. So, yeah, there's a lot of emotional intrigue in here, and frankly, I think some of it feels vaguely like middle schoolish, but it's also keeping the pace going. It's keeping the pace up for me. So, yeah, I am still reading this, and I am going to continue reading it. At least one section every 2 days. Like, I'm serious. If I get through 10 pages in one day on this, it's a good reading day for this book. So, yeah, I am expecting to be reading this through March. So, we're continuing on with that. I am also almost 80% done with Pilgrim at Tinker Creek. This was on hold for all of January because I was trying to focus a lot of my energy on the Magic Mountain. It didn't really work that way, so I've decided to start picking up some of the other stuff that I put down in order to do that. So I'm kind of alternating reading that and this and the Magic Mountain, and I'm almost to the last chapter on this, and I'm still loving it. It's a very quiet thing I love the most about it is that she just keeps a through line through this book. She's got a very coherent voice on this, and she's constantly calling back stuff from earlier chapters, so nothing feels like it's wasted, and nothing feels like it's inconsequential, because it can always come back later to make some other point. So yeah, I'm enjoying this, and I'm enjoying her writing. The next thing I'm also reading is The Fae and the Furious, which is the comic book series right now that's tying in with The Rivers of London. This is by Ben Aronovich, and let's see here, Andrew Cartmel and Lee Sullivan, who does the illustrations. I'm liking this so far. The artwork's nice, and I like keeping up with the characters, so there's that. The other two that I'm currently reading that are still on the back burner and I'm not making any progress with that is Don't Panic by Douglas Don't Panic, Douglas Adams and the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Neil Gaiman, and The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. I'm at 53% on The Dragon Republic and 38% on Don't Panic. Those I'm going to take back up after I finish The Pilgrim of Tinker Creek and The Fae and the Furious. Those are all the things that I'm currently reading. And I wanted to show you guys this new TBR that I thought of. I've been saying this a lot when I'm looking at my books and when I'm talking about my books, that I want to get to it sooner rather than later. And I heard somebody else talking about it, and I cannot remember who, I'm sorry. And they were saying that sooner rather than later was a bit of a pipe dream, and that, we say that, but it doesn't really happen. So I decided that I was going to make a sooner rather than later TBR. So when I get done with Pilgrim at Tinker Creek and The Dragon Republic, I am going to pick up one of these books from this TBR, and as soon as I'm done with that one, I'll pick up the next one and the next one and the next one. So it is my goal to finish these in the first half of the year. So here we go. I've been eyeing this for the past 2 weeks, and so I'm like, why can't I finish The Magic Mountain so I can read this? But it's Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. It is the Bantam Classics version. Do we have... translated by Constance Garnett. Yes, that's probably going to be next. The Belly of Paris by Emile Zola, which is about a guy who is trapped on he's imprisoned on Devil's Island, and he gets out and he's like, Paris? What's this Paris? I don't recognize this Paris. So it's The Belly of Paris by Emile Zola, and it's translated and has an introduction by Mark Kurlansky. This just showed up on my Read German Books 2020 TBR, which I'll link below. It's the Picador classic Imperium by Christian Kracht, which is translated by Daniel Bowles. It's about a dude who wants to set up a colony that'll worship the sun. And this one was on my recent book haul, which is Catullus' Bedspread, The Life of Rome's Most Erotic Poet by Daisy Dunn. This is about Catullus. And then this was on my nonfiction November TBR last year, and I didn't get around to it, and I really still want to read it. And it is The Year of the Monkey by Patti Smith, which is basically her year of tramping about. And it also has stuff with friends of hers. And so yeah, those are the 5 books that are on my priority sooner rather than later TBR. And I really want to get to them quickly. Alright, so that is my reading update and my future reading plans. Let me know how your reading has been. If you've read any of the books that are on my upcoming reading list or what I'm currently reading, please let me know and leave your comments. Thank you guys so much for stopping by.